Now, over the last couple days, my life has been going unnervingly well, so to speak. And I say unnervingly because the last time and the last time for the last 4 years, my life went my way. My life went unknowingly well, and for some reason that I couldn't figure out, I normally stumbled after. Because my life was going my way was the problem. My life was going my way, not the Lord's way. I was doing my own thing, and then I would end up falling into my own problems because I'm imperfect. And that was the main goal for the 4 years, is how do I get out of my way and follow God's way? Because God's way is continuous. God's way does not let you fall. And that was the problem, was I was like, it's going weirdly well. It's going right. And so I was like, I don't want to fall again. So I got to figure out whether this is my way or this is the highway. I want to be on the highway because my way is going to lead me back to stumbling, and I don't want to stumble right now. I want to keep moving forward. So I had to analyze what was going on and whether I was on my way or the highway. And this is how I did it. But before we get in there, I'm Liam Nicholson, and I'm a professional Formula One driver and part-time professional liar. And today I'll be working into my 3 steps on how to figure out whether I'm confirming my path being the right one, being on God's path for me. And I think with that, let's get into it. So, let's get into the brass tacks. Am I finding satisfaction in my life? That's step number 1. Now, when I was walking in the world and kind of going my own little way, and as a young lost sheep, I would find myself, and I never was satisfied. And that was one of the main things that convicted me to find God, was the fact that I was never satisfied. In the world, I was happy, or I felt pleasured or good, and feeling good felt good, and I mixed that up with feeling satisfied, but it would always die out. And when I started following Christ, that was the big thing. I felt this deep sense of like satisfying, fulfilling joy constantly. Just like Christ filled with me. And I also found a really nice sense of release, like in resting in God and resting in His hands. And that relief and that joy kind of built this amazing life period that I could just go around feeling stress-free and happy, so to speak, all the time. Now, when I was trying to get there, I would always confuse the devil's pleasure and happiness with my fulfilled satisfaction that I was aiming for. And that's why I would constantly stumble, is I would get weaned off of the satisfaction to get on to this pleasure train again, which would then make me stumble. So when I was feeling like my life was going my way, I was like, no, not again. But my first step was like, well, let's just think, how do I feel right now? Is this the happy-go-lucky feeling, or am I feeling satisfied and fulfilled and relieved in Christ? What are the habits I'm doing? What am I sticking to where I'm supposed to be going? Is this the key marks of the path of Christ? And I looked around and was like, okay, that's the step number 1. I'm still in this satisfying, fulfilled relief of Christ. Now, number two is the heavy hitter. This is the big one. So there's a person at Chick-fil-A. There's a position right between bagging and window where it's called a double checker. And the double checker's job is to make sure the order accuracy of the bagged food is actually in the bags. And in order to be really good at this job, you have to assume that there's something wrong in the bag. Because if there was nothing wrong with the bag, and you assume there was nothing wrong with the bag, you'd just be like, yep. But that's not entirely how it works. We're all human and we make mistakes. This is not assuming that they're doing a bad job, but assuming that they might have missed something. And in order to really truly live the life of Christ, I feel like there's an assumption that you have to make, and that's healthy to make, where you're like, I don't know if I'm entirely on the right path. God confirmed, and literally has confirmed the apostles' lives and the disciples' life, and they're still like, I don't know, man, that seems a little crazy. Like the Great Commission, they're like, I remember at the Sunday service a couple weeks ago that he was talking about the fact that even with Christ standing there, living after dying and being dead for 3 days, and then sending them out into the world and the Great Commission, they were still doubting. They were still like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if is this really him? Like, seriously, you feel like you know Christ when you see him. But you gotta, like, I assume in my life, I'm like, I don't want to step off the path again. So I'm going to assume that there's something wrong, and I'm going to let God confirm. God's going to be my double checker. God's going to give me the path and then double check my path to make sure I'm on the right path. So that's the second thing. Not the first thing. I already gave you the first thing. That's the second thing. Can you confirm with God? God, I ask you, am I on the right path here? And that's what I did. I said, am I on the right path here? I'm not sure. And convict me like deeply if I'm wrong, because I want to be able to correct this quickly. I don't want to be on the sucky path. I want to be on your path. So that's number 2. And then number 3 is make sure biblical. Make sure it's biblical. There's a preacher online that says, that ain't biblical. You got to make sure it's biblical. And that's number 3. You can confirm asking God yourself. That's the crazy thing about God, is he condescends to your level. He wants you to talk to him and make sure you're on the right path. But number 3 is make it biblical. And you literally get to talk with God through the Bible as well. It is literally God's written word, his holy word, in 2,000 pages. Like, wow! And he just gave that to you. You know? It's crazy. It's probably one of the most valuable things we have out there as Christians. And people are just like, oh yeah, it's the Bible, whatever. But that's the third one, is go back and like look in and say, God, I don't know. Show me in this text what you're trying to get to me. What kind of ideal you want for my life? Where do you see this situation fitting? Make sure it's biblical. And the crazy thing is he'll show you. You're like, this is 2,000 pages. I don't know how in my life he's going to somehow find the one passage that's talking about exactly what I'm going through. And then you open the word and it's exactly what you're thinking about. You're like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be like, what is general revelation? I'm not entirely sure. And it just opens and it's like, oh! It's like, that's all you had to do. And I feel like that's missed a lot of times, where if you just like ask God, like, show me in this Bible what you mean. And he like shows you at your level. You're not having to be a great Bible scholar and particularly in the Greek text stuff. He just shows you where you're at, and he shows you where the answer is, and he's like, see, I told you. And then you're like, perfect. So number 1, just look around your life and say, like, how am I feeling? Am I feeling relieved in God's hands? Am I feeling satisfied and fulfilled with the joy of Christ? Or am I feeling happy and go lucky and feel good? Number 2 is confirm. Ask him. He's ready and open to tell you and convict you if you're wrong. And number 3 is search in the Bible. He wants you to search his word daily. Your daily bread. How are you going to live without eating? So eat your daily bread of God's word and envelop what he really wants you to do with his life. Develop it through your daily application of his holy word. So those are my 3 points. Now, just a pretty much big disclaimer across the right across it is, it only works if you're willing and ready to listen and follow. And that's a big problem with, well, Liam, of course I do all those things, but I never seem to get any of that. It's like, well, were you listening? Were you following? Because a lot of times he's like, you got to do that, and you're like, no. You sit there and you're like, I'm not doing that. That sounds terrible. I can't believe. So, Mark Twain was a great example of this. He did not believe that the Bible was the Creator's words, because he thought being a sin to commit adultery was cruelly hard. I can't sleep with any girl I want. It can't be right. It can't be. So make sure you're like willing to listen and follow. God will lead you wherever he needs you to go. So that's the main disclaimer there. And those are the 3 points. And I charge you to just hold yourself accountable and be like, I don't know where I'm at, God. Show me what you like to see a little bit more of. What do you want to change? What do you like right now? Because he'll show you. He wants you to be the best you can be. And if you're ready and willing to listen and follow, he'll do all he can to help you. So that's where I leave you. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.